Bush was on. Time to kick some bush tail. No, big afro, ball of energy.
I don't know how you can hold a trombone and get your embouchure and dance like he did. I've never seen anybody else, another trombone player, ever do it.
He worked. He worked. He was a worker. He was a showman, and he had his place in the band.
He was the Bush, and all in all, I have to say, Bush was the best consistent performer on stage.
His philosophy, like I remember talking to him one time. We were on the road somewhere, and it's like he didn't, you know, it's like, yeah, we're gonna try and play the right notes, but more than that, man, you just got to get out there and wail, you know, he just put your heart into it.
He was a character. He just had such a joy of living, and it showed on stage.
I wish I could have had, you know, a nice spotlight on him, because he could dance, man. When it was time for him to play, he was always shaking the tambourine and looking at the crowd, and not just looking over the crowd, making eye contact with people, getting them up, I mean, it was rock and roll time for Bush from get-go.
I was told about this guy by the name of Lynn Tivens, who played trombone, and that he was very good. I tried to find him that day. We didn't hook up, but he got the word. The first rehearsal that we had, we went out to Mr. Lucky's, which was way out on the other side of town from Arizona State. And we were there for about a half an hour, and the next thing I knew is I looked up, and here's Bush walking down the ramp to the basement where we were with his trombone in hand. He had heard that we were looking for a trombone player, and took a taxi out to Mr. Lucky's. At that point in time, I didn't care if he could blow a note. He was in. Anybody who wanted to play with the band that badly was going to be a part of the band.
Well, I didn't meet Bush before he became the Bush. At least maybe I did, because I think, did the Bush happen in Colorado Springs?
So the Bush happened at our house on Sheridan Street. Steve came over, Bush was there, and Lynn Tivens was there. And Steve just kept saying, look, you know what? Just let me comb out your hair. Let me style it a little different. Anyways, it took Steve about 2 hours to talk him into it, and all he did was wet his hair, towel it dry, instant afro, because he just had naturally curly hair.
He got to experience something with a couple of his brothers, his what do you call his brothers that were a little on the wild side.
We played Lucky's that night, and all these girls kept coming up. Oh, I love your hair. That was it. When those girls started commenting on his hair, it never went back, and he became the Bush.
He got to spread his wings really well, and it just etched a brotherhood, you know.
When I first met Bush, I had an entirely different picture of him, because he played a character on the stage, you know.
The Bush, man. Bush on stage. Wow.
He was not the greatest reader, but he had huge ears. And once you sang it to him once, and he heard it, he had it forever. And he had a huge sound, all the way up and all the way down. He could play low bass trombone notes, really good. He was a really good trombone player.
I've never heard a bone player that had that kind of tone, you know. You hear a lot of them, and a lot of bone players sound a little sloppy, but Bush never sounded sloppy.
The man was a natural, and very gifted, very gifted. He used to just hold the audience in thrall, especially when they do like the Glenn Millers and the older tunes and the standards.
As a trombone player, he was totally, you know, totally tuned in, you know, very excited about what was going on, you know.
He had a good ear. He would learn parts that Jimmy gave him, you know, and stuff like that.
You know, the magic of the Bush and the Ty and the Jimmy, that was pretty magic up there. They could read, they could play, they had feeling, and you could feel that, and that's what makes the chemistry was there. They weren't mechanics; they were performers, and they played with emotion.
It turns out that between Ty and Bush and myself, with the amount of classical and training that we had, I believe we became one of the strongest horn sections, small horn sections around anywhere.
Yeah, Bush is a guy. You know what? Does this sound like a bunch of schmaltz? Bush is a great guy.
Bush and I have been buddies since way back.
He's special. He's my baby brother, and we're still close.
My brother, I love him, and I was his roommate, and we got along awesome.
I'm so glad that we've been able to stay close and stay friends, and I hope I'm never done dealing with Bush and his family. I love them.
Part of the chemistry, what makes the group stay together? People like Bush, they're totally committed. They don't have any other desire than to be a part of that band,